Good morning, friends. I'm going to read from page 4, at the top of page 4, in the introductory part of advice and queries. Our diversity invites us both to speak what we know to be true in our lives and to learn from others. Friends are encouraged to listen to each other in humility and understanding, trusting the Spirit that goes beyond our human effort and comprehension. So it is to the comfort and discomfort of friends that these advice and queries are offered. We've had things said, contributions made, ministries about privilege and unprivilege. Maud and I will take turns to tell you the areas that we've been involved in on privilege and unprivilege. Each one of us in this room has a complex identity rooted in human differences: gender, class, race, sexuality, disability, age, ethnicity, etc. How all these categories intersect inform our worldview, the way we see things, the way we do things. And when we come to the concept of privilege, which really is about, when I'm talking about it myself, it's about the unearned, exclusive, and socially conferred privilege. And oftentimes, privilege is invisible to those who have it. It's not about guilt trips that I want to talk about. It's a question that I ask myself and I ask you too. How are you, my dear friends, in your privilege, power, and influence? How are you progressing the cause of social justice agenda, underpinned by Quaker values in your personal and collective sphere of influence? We each have a sphere of influence where our personal privilege can progress the cause of social justice. In the olden days, what we did, we sat in our own comfort zones, trying to dish out social justice to people we didn't know about, except we could categorize them as deserving and undeserving poor. That's when you are doing things for people. And then you are a little bit enlightened and we say, no, we don't do things for people, we do things with people. But we still held the strings. We were the ones with the knowledge. As our friend was saying, a brain power. So these working class people, these marginalized people, we're going to work with them, but they're going to do it our way. The time has come, and it has been coming for a long time. Those progressive social activists and prophets have come to the point of realizing it's not doing something for people or with people, it's doing something to ourselves. And that's why this third way of doing things, which means we enlarge our comfort zone so uncomfortably to include all those people who were not included before. That quote that comes across in many places by Lila Watson, the Aboriginal activists, when we talk about privilege and unprivilege, He says, if you came here to help me, and me is black, woman, trans, or whoever it is, if you came here to help me, then you are wasting your time. But if you have come here for your own liberation, seeing that your own liberation is bound with mine, then let us work together. Comfort zone, as we have always known it, is restrictive and self-serving in my way of looking at it, and we need to extend it to include others.
You always want to be really prepared for something like this, and then you realize that you never went to the toilet and you forgot a tissue. So hold me in your prayers. Boy, that makes me feel better. I suppose before I start, really, I just want to let you know that there's some stuff that I'm about to tell you that I rarely admit to myself. So this feels a bit tricky. But I wanted to say something about the value I place on being vulnerable and sharing our failures, because to me this is a gift. I want you to know that I'm laying myself bare before you. I'm surrendering myself before God in the hope that a greater truth may be revealed through our ministry. So let's see what happens. My name is Maud. My meeting is Selly Oak in Birmingham, and my childhood meeting was Colchester in Essex. They asked us to prepare ministry, but I'm the parent to two youngish children, so sitting in worship and feeling present to your inner teacher is a rare occurrence. So these words come from the minute I have in the shower, some quiet time whilst my son plays football, and the odd moment as I make pasta for tea. It also comes from chats with friends. Thank you for sitting where I can see you. Without sounding menacing, you know who you are, and thank you very much. I was asked to think about climate justice through the lens of privilege and to talk about this by using examples and stories from my personal experience. My brain needed to separate these, so I'm going to start with the privilege bit and then finish with the climate justice bit. But as you'll see, these things cannot be separated easily. I'm going to talk, and you have a choice as to what any of I share speaks to you. Choice. Perhaps one of the biggest elements of privilege we have. This isn't my favourite subject. When I got the phone call asking me, my first thought was, please, not me. It doesn't make me jump for joy, and I'm somebody who likes jumping for joy. I know there's a place in my heart that thinks, oh, this is where I'm going to be made to feel guilty about stuff I have no control over, like the colour of my skin, where I was born or where I went to school. Perhaps I'm going to feel like the world would be better without me in it. I could respond like that. I could get my head down this yearly meeting and just go through it unchanged. But then I was asked to speak. Introduce the session, they said. Oh, brilliant. I get to introduce somebody more capable of speaking on this than me. Oh, Quakers, and the way we like to explain things. There is no one else to introduce. Just a subject. So here's my story, and I'm going to share everything about me, because I don't think we can work on our privilege unless we share who we are, 100% of who we are. When I was younger, I used to play a drinking game called I Have Never. When someone said something that applied to me, I drank. I don't think anyone wanted to get me drunk, they just wanted me to overshare. So without the drinking and without really playing the game at all, this is what I would say. I am white. I am married to a man. I have 2 children. The oldest is a boy, he likes football. My daughter, the younger, likes princesses and makeup. I live in a leafy neighbourhood in Birmingham. We have a drive, and I have a car I can park on that drive. I went to university. I am now employed. I have never been stopped and searched. I sit in worship and don't fear that I might be shot in the back as I pray. I see armed police in shopping centres and know that they are not interested in me. If I lost my job today, someone in my family would help pay our mortgage because they can. I have been fat-shamed, and only ever by Quakers. I have an invisible disease, invisible to you, but I notice it every day. I have written down what I need to say because brain fog makes remembering hard. I cry a lot. I live in a home where there is violence and grief. I can't have children the natural way. I don't feel unfruitful, so I just tell my children my tummy is broken. I am a parent. This is an uncomfortable level of sharing for me. I've told you things it's hard to admit myself, but I believe we need to get better at sharing. Not just the bits of us we think Quakers will approve of, but all of us, even the bits we might feel guilty about and we don't want to admit to. Only then, when we are truly honest, can we be faithful servants to the workings of the Spirit. Many of us will live with both elements of privilege and a lack of privilege. So what should we do with it? I think we need to first admit and own it. We then need to decide, what can we do differently, and what can we step away from? I am more than one thing. We are more than the person we show the world, and we are more than you can tell from first meeting us. I know this, but I make assumptions, and I run with those. So-and-so does this, so-and-so thinks that, so-and-so is a such and such. Put in the words that you would use. We must work together to seek out this unconscious bias, to challenge the power dynamics within our lives and our worshipping communities. We are in a climate emergency. Let us own our privilege. Let us be uncomfortable. Let us be challenged, and let us be changed. For we are complicit in the crisis we face. So what shall we do?
I grew up privileged. In Kenya, that is. In one way, I was privileged, in another, I wasn't. And that's why I would not want you to blame yourself for what the British colonial did in Kenya. It's such a big load, you can't carry it. And you cannot tell me to forgive you one time. It will have to be many, many times. I grew up when there was the Mau Mau emergency in Kenya in the 50s, early 50s. Those of you who know that time, do you know what it takes to go to the train station and you pass, this carriage is first class, this carriage is second class, this third class is mine, with wooden seats. My mother was very well known. She was the only midwife in a very small town in what was called White Highlands in Kenya. That is the part of Kenya that no blacks could buy land during that time. It was all reserved for whites. But my mom, who had gone to school and qualified as a midwife, had the privilege, and my dad also worked in the hospital, but he died when I was about 2 or 3. And therefore, I enjoyed some privilege in my sphere of influence through my mom, who always went to CAC sessions of the Church of Scotland in Kenya. Very staunch woman, but also very strong. I can remember walking to the shops one day with my mom, and there was somebody digging a trench, and all my mom could stand there and say, "John, come up here," in a voice that was very commanding. And of course, John came up immediately. I said, "John, tell Nim the reason you are doing that hard work down there being paid pittance is you never went to school properly, and Nim is playing truant. And of course, John had to tell me, and yes, Mama Leah, he would say. And therefore, I saw a woman who was educated, and although she wouldn't call herself a feminist before her time, she never feared any man. So you grow up with a role model. In 1972, I was taking kids from one tribal place to another tribal place, trying to work through tribalism. In 1974, I was in Vienna working with East-West Mission, working with people from Eastern Bloc, religious refugees. That for me was the privilege of service. In 1978, 79, I was working with Spitalfields Crypt with people we then called vagrant alcoholics. Each one of these people brought me a little bit lower, a little bit real. They helped me to see them as they were. In the 80s, I was in Glasgow working with psychiatric patients, as we called them in those days. Living and working in a therapeutic community challenged me, who had come from a privileged position, to come down to earth. But there is also one privilege. A few weeks ago, I was coming from Bucharest and came to the airport, at Vienna airport. There were 5 people in front of me, all with British passports, which they opened and were ushered through. And I came through with my British passport and thinking I'll get the same treatment. He looked at it. How long were you in Bucharest for? What were you there for? I've had these encounters before, so I know how to act gently. You don't let your face show what you're feeling inside. I do know the distress of my mixed-race daughters coming home and saying they've been to a department store and been followed. For no other reason, they don't match a certain profile people carry in their head. I once got an offer of a job after an interview, and this is how it went. Thank you, Nim, for coming to your job interview. The panel was very glad that you turned up, and we think you're the right person for this job. However, we are thinking of relocating our offices, and our staff have never been managed by somebody of your caliber. We therefore have decided to re-advertise this post, and we highly recommend that you apply. Totally convoluted. The person should just have said, look, you are black, we don't want to give you this job. It would have made more sense to me if it had been put in that way. The other unprivilege and distress, the only time I've been physically attacked for being black, I was staying at a castle in Scotland. In Fife. The family who lived there and have lived there for 800 years invited me to spend a weekend, and of course I spent a weekend, and we went to the pub with one of the owners of the castle. And when I went to get the drinks at the counter, one person did not like me getting drinks, and all I got was that. So I live in a privileged and a non-privileged life in this country and in Kenya. But through all this, I learned 85% of my therapy clients in Kenya were white. 75% of my therapy clients in England, in London, are white. There is a mutual exchange. What I am looking for is peaceful coexistence based on realistic assessment of our situation.
As I sit in worship, I am exposed. The light is not a warm and comfortable embrace. The light is a spotlight, showing me what I can't hide, exposing my vulnerabilities, diminishing my ego and revealing the truth. Once I have sat in the light, I cannot turn it off. I may want to hide, to avoid the truth, but once felt, it cannot be undone. A little like privilege. I cannot turn off the light to my privilege, it surrounds me. I'd like to share a story about my children, and this is a story that came to mind when asked to speak about climate justice as seen through the lens of privilege. Meeting my children gave me the opportunity to see life through their eyes. Our son came to us with real experience of hunger. We talk in our family a lot about what it means to be safe, and part of my job as his mum is to reassure him there will always be enough food, and he doesn't need to be scared. But I know that I am lying to my children and I am lying to myself. I am making a promise that I cannot keep. Our changing climate will change life as we know it. This is not a fear for the future, but life is changing now. In his lifetime, and probably in mine, we shall see food shortages, and I may not be able to provide for him. But I am privileged because today he is safe. Today we have food to eat. Many parents already can't feed their children. They already know and live this reality. So I'm scared. I hate saying I'm scared. I like to call myself the queen of positivity. But I don't think we should hide from our fear, because these are scary times. So if you are scared, if you, like me, are lying to those around you, then know that I will walk alongside you. But I no longer want to walk without challenge. I don't want to face a future where I have to say to my son, I could have said or done more, but I didn't want to upset someone. I'm sorry that there isn't enough to eat. I was worried I would make someone feel guilty. I am sorry that I was so comfortable and you won't have that privilege. I am sorry that when I said I loved you, I didn't love you enough to leave you a world you can live in. I have also been challenged. I watched Extinction Rebellion take to the streets over the last month. I watched and I listened, and as much as I tried to stop it, I let the guilt in. I wasn't there. What would people say? I got drawn into thinking that because I wasn't there, that what I do and how I respond to the climate emergency was not good enough. But this guilt felt self-indulgent. Guilt is not going to get us anywhere, and so I am working to put it on one side. But this is work in progress. I know action must be taken. I know I must change. I know I must do what I am capable of and then do a little bit more. But I also know that in order not to fall into despair, I have to do this in a way that is right and true for me. On Twitter a few weeks ago, I wrote something about using too much, wasting even more. That was in preparation to tell you that I have become accustomed to a normal where waste is acceptable. I need a new normal. A few weeks ago, I attended the annual Friends of Madagascar meeting, and one of the Malagasy students said to me, "You love Madagascar so much, when are you going to come and see us again?" And I said, "I won't." And he said, "I thought you loved Madagascar." And I said, "I do. And because I love it, I won't come and see you again." What will you sacrifice in order to make sacred? I spoke in the beginning about choice. We have so many. I can choose to accept my privilege. I can choose to accept it and not spend time justifying or qualifying with but this and but that. I can choose not to suggest the answer to everything, that if only we all did this, everything would be okay. I can choose not to make this about me and to step away from an individualistic culture. I can choose to listen to God without reservation and open myself up for transformation. I can choose to leave all those bees I have in my bonnet and be surprised by the calling that fills the openness. What will you do? I just want to leave you with one last remark. That if you've come this weekend thinking, this isn't for me, I don't need to think about privilege or climate justice, this is for somebody else, then perhaps, like me, you're exactly the person that needs to think about your privilege and your actions, and how you might use your experience of privilege or lack of it to reveal the kingdom.
What sort of society do you want to live in? What kind of society do we want to be? I think for me, the Quaker quest for diversity and inclusion, looking at privilege and power, it's not getting numbers of black people and marginalized people and disabled people into our meetings. If that was the only thing, we would be settling for less than we should be. It's about transforming the world, transforming society. And it begins with self-transformation, in my view. And I think this will only happen, in my opinion, by embracing the reality what early friends called continuous revelation, and what some of the enlightened activists are calling progressive revelation. It starts with peace within ourselves. I don't believe you're not at peace with yourself, we can actually do these things. It's not about point scoring. And I believe for us, I think a good starting place is finding a person of privilege, working in solidarity and partnership with marginalized group of people to transform the systems that marginalize those people. What does that mean? You cannot be an ally of mine unless you also appoint me your mentor. When and where did you get a working class person? And where did you work in solidarity with a working person before? Some of us in this room don't know any working class person. We don't know any black person. We don't know any trans person. If we are going to transform, because it's a social justice thing, we need to begin in our area of influence, beginning authentic and real conversations with people we've never talked to before. These marginalized groups of people exist. We should find them and have a dialogue with them in order to have a partnership. And it is that partnership beginning within ourselves and our meeting that will transform the world. Otherwise, we'll be playing the same game that is being played out there by those activists who are not, no matter how much good they are doing, they are not informed by an inner dimension of spirituality, or may I say Quaker values. It's a partnership. There are things you don't know. There are things I don't know. Wherefore, you and I will turn you, I don't know and my don't know, in a knowing way by finding a third way. It's a lifelong thing. It's not a label. It's not an identity. It's not something we do once. It will take a long time. May I end up with the words of Rumi, a 13th century Persian poet. somewhere beyond right and wrong, there is a garden. I'll meet you there. Thank you, friends.